Michelle.
Hey, curiosity.
Good topic.
Yeah, so I have a client that I was working with. She has this initiative she's super passionate about. She is full in, and she doesn't know why everybody else isn't in. And so what do we do with that? So, she finally got someone to respond to an email. She sent this email talking all about why it's important to the organization, why they should be on board. Crickets, except for one person. And that person has really not been a fan or an ally, I would say, in some of her and their initiatives. So instantly, guns blazing, knives out, she's going to have this meeting. She's ready to start fighting. Hey, let's take it back a notch. How can we come from a place of curiosity? What if this person is actually interested in this and they do have some energy around it? You come in knives blazing, you're going to have a whole different scenario.
Yeah. I love that story because, we hear this all the time with initiatives and organizations and stuff. Oh, I need to get buy-in, right? Or I'm really passionate and they're not really passionate. So this kind of binary thinking kind of artificially constrains what's possible. So I love that you put the pause button on them, right? And said, hey, just a second. And part of the problem I think here is she's so ahead of the curve on her idea. And she knows she needs other people to come along to actually make it a reality, but she's not going back and meeting them where they are with that curiosity. What do you need? What's going to make this valuable for you? And when you go straight into selling mode, then they go into defense mode, right? And you never get to that sweet spot of what are we going to do together? And so I think that's super important and a very underutilized skill because I think we're rewarded and wired to go, to advocate, to have a strong point of view, and to be super aggressive about getting those things executed. But execution without the rest of the world, in your world, is not going to work.
Well, and I think the pace that we're at. The pace that we're at, how does that allow that individual to then be curious? They're trying to get this over the finish line, right?
Yeah.
They're like, this is my initiative. I need to get buy-in, right? To use your word.
Yeah.
And so I blast this email. How am I going to get the buy-in? Now I have crickets. Yeah. So what is that about me? What is the thing that I can do? And I think what you're saying is absolutely right. Meet them where they are. Check those biases. Check those filters. Where are you? And honestly, I tell people, write it down.
Yeah.
If you already believe that person is X, Y, and Z, go ahead and write that down. So you've given it a voice, you've given it an answer, you're not pushing it back, but then check that bias before you walk in the door or in the meeting with this person.
I think that's super important, but you said something else that got me thinking. We often think of these as I initiatives when they really are we initiatives, and curiosity can unlock that we perspective. But I also think that when we go into these situations without enough curiosity around it, then it's personal when we get crickets, right? And so we don't, and then we create a whole narrative around the crickets, and it becomes very personal to us, and then we just say it louder, when in fact what we really need to do is shift gears and go into that curiosity mode, ask a better question, understand where people are coming from. Because what I've found in all of the organizations and teams that I work with is this concept of resistance actually is a myth. Right? It's not true. All that's really going on is people don't either have enough information or they haven't connected it to why it matters for them or whatever. And if you're driving the initiative, then you are the one that needs to drive the curiosity and connect those dots.
Owning the curiosity, not just your own curiosity, but the other person. And I think one of the things you said is there's stories that we're telling in our heads about what does this mean, taking it personal, the script that we're trying to create in order to, influence them. And at the end of the day, how can we influence them without understanding where they're coming from?
You can't.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think this is one of the power or super skills we like to call them, that leaders and people who want to influence and individual contributors who want to make a big, impact, they need to get comfortable with this concept of a better question. And it is a go slow to go fast.
Yeah.
But the payoff is definitely worth it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right. And I think I'll mirror your story. And it was interesting early in my career. My first job they gave me a desk and nobody talked to me for 2 weeks. I had no idea like what I was really there to do. I mean, I had a job description. I was supposed to be a technical writer. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Right. And so rather than wait for somebody to do something, I had to get curious about some things. And fortunately, some things were happening legislatively that made that easy. And I'm like, oh, this law just passed. What does that mean for us? And then I had to go find people and ask them what it meant to them and what might we do with it, et cetera. But I probably spent 90 days being curious before I ever did any real work. But then when I finally put pen to paper, we had the traction. We had a followership to do the work. And I think that's the missing piece in a lot of our organizations, especially in a go fast culture.
Well, and a lot of people are trying to solve it, right? They're just trying to solve
100%.
it. So they're asking yes and no questions.
Binary questions, yeah.
Binary questions so that they can get to the root of what is that pushback that they're expecting so that they can argue their point versus understanding, again, back to where they're coming from.
Yeah.
So if we wrap it all up, pause. Curiosity, what does that look like, right? What does that look like for the individual? And then not coming guns blazing. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, you need to kind of pin that. Well, I'll start with this. I think that we tend to think that there's one type of question.
Yeah.
And you already mentioned the first type that we usually go to. It's a very binary yes or no.
I call it staccato questioning.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm a music buff, so that really resonates for me. And there's a place for it, right? But it's usually not at the beginning of a journey or when you're trying to get people to come along with you and do something powerful. I think a lot of people that have practiced and believe that they've got curiosity as a skill, not a capability, but a skill, are asking great open-ended questions. But open-ended questions just give you information. They don't give you meaning, right? So I might come to you and say, well, how does this initiative fit with your priorities, Michelle?
Yeah.
And you're going to tell me information.
Right.
But I'm not going to know unless I ask that better question, which is more of a facilitative question that gets to the meaning behind it. To really understand where there's opportunity or where there's truly an obstacle that we need to figure out together or not, right? Because usually we stop and we go, oh, okay, I know your priorities. Let me show you where this fits.
Yeah,
And now I'm
exactly.
telling again, and I've moved out of curiosity.
That's right. We're trying to prove. We're trying to prove why you need to get on board with me instead of understanding what are their real concerns and how is that being addressed rather than trying to solve it right there in the moment.
I think that's true. One other thought I'd love to just get your perspective on, because I hear this a lot, especially from more senior leaders, is, they've been trained or told that they need to have a point of view, that they need to advocate for a position. They need to come in with clarity on whatever. And a lot of that is true. But what I always try to help them understand is, what do you need to do to suspend that just long enough to make sure that there's no cracks that are going to become gaps in that point of view? And 9 times out of 10, I honestly believe you plus me equals something better than I'm going to figure out on my own. But I'm curious what you see in your industries and people that you're working with.
So first of all, I want to touch on the suspended, right? Really, really key is to suspend those points of view because you as the leader walking in the door, everyone is already biased to whatever words that come out of your mouth.
Love that. Yep.
Whatever those words are.
Yep.
So you as a leader, if you can give them that opportunity, I know we're almost going into organization and teams at this point, but you as the individual leader, suspend your point of view, especially if it's a strong point of view.
Yeah.
Suspend it for just a moment and see what the other people, we can use the pause, right? Get away from the staccato questioning, use that open-ended questions, but again, understanding the different purpose and the reasons why behind it, not just the how and the what.
Yep.
And then I think you're going to get a much broader, more rich, experience from your team.
I think that's true, but I'd like to build on that because it is kind of getting into the team and the organizational components. But if I haven't created an environment where the people around me feel comfortable offering an alternative point of view or something I haven't thought of or whatever, I'm gonna still be short on what I need for it to be successful. And so I think curiosity isn't an event. Right? It's something that we build trust in over time and how I respond to that curiosity. So I might put it out there, but if then you push back on me and I respond or I react in a way that's like, ooh, like didn't see that coming, you're not likely going to get a whole lot of reciprocal curiosity coming back
and this
at you.
is where
in the
you
future.
and we're going to be a little frictional here on this
love
one because not every space is going to get comfortable.
No.
Right? And not every organization is going to be comfortable. And you're going to have to step out of it as the individual and understand that you're going to be uncomfortable. And you know what? It may give you some feelings inside like, wow, I really think maybe that was a dumb question. Fine, it was a dumb question. But you know what it did? It allowed the groundwork for other people to ask the question. So I challenge you to ask those questions, even if it's in an uncomfortable environment, because what you're doing, you're impacting the organization in ways that you don't even realize.
Well, I agree with that. And that brings up another myth, though. Most people do not understand what psychological safety is.
Okay.
Psychological safety is not warm hugs, unicorns, and rainbows. Psychological safety is an environment where I know that my voice matters and it's valued. And even if there's productive friction in the conversation, we believe that it's
like
worth it, that the juice is worth the squeeze, right?
Yeah.
Right. And I think that this is a huge. You're right. It's a whole nother episode because this is something that I see misunderstood in organizations across the board.
Yeah.
And it's not about being comfortable. In fact, I had a senior leader recently that, we asked the whole organization, what does it feel like or look like 12 months from now if we're really successful with fill in the blank?
Sure.
And we were getting words like comfortable, smooth, no stress. And we all looked, all the senior leaders, and we looked at each other and said, it doesn't exist.
It is a unicorn.
That is not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to be stress-free, et cetera. Now there's productive stress and there's unproductive stress, right? And we need to be curious and we need to understand that. But you're right. At the end of the day, progress isn't going to happen unless there's some productive conflict and debate and friction.
Well, I like frictional discourse.
Oh, I know you do.
I do. So I think that kind of wraps up
Yeah.
for the individual. So call to action. Which part of this will you take on? And get uncomfortable. And there is no unicorn, some warm, fuzzy space that you're going to be working in. But in order for you to grow, in order for you to expand your human intelligence, this is where it goes for curiosity.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I'd ask you to just, as you're thinking about this, just start. Start with something. Pick an opportunity, an area, a conversation, a meeting that you're going into, and challenge yourself to say, how might I be more curious in this moment? And what's the payoff on the other side of that? And typically when there's a payoff, we're going to be far more invested in trying it because we really want that outcome.
Yeah.
Right. So you got to put the two pieces together, I think, and then go do something with it. To your point, Michelle, I love that.
Yeah. So if it goes well, this is what happens. If it doesn't go well, who cares?
Right. What did you learn?
Yeah,
What did you learn?
exactly.
Yeah. What did you learn?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.